Hey, it's John with Vision Advisors. Welcome to another Insight with Vision. In this particular episode, we want to take a look at consumer buying behaviors and understanding how to close more business. Many sales professionals don't take the time to learn and to study consumer buying behaviors, and they are engaging in activities that actually limit their success. So Einstein says, and we use Einstein as our analytical thinker to speak into the issues that we're going to talk about today. Einstein says, if you want to close more business, then do this. Now, you're a sales professional. It's what you do. You want to sell, and every day you get up with the goal of getting in front of qualified prospects on a favorable basis to sell a product or a service that you offer. Now, why do you do that? It's how you make money. But here's what we know from a study of consumer buying behaviors and understanding the attitude of a consumer when it comes to making yes or no decisions when it comes to an offer. If you are approaching them as a sales professional, it's counterintuitive to your long-term success in the business. Now, the results of a number of human behavior and consumer behavior buying studies tell us this. Number one, consumers don't want to be sold. They're not really interested in your product or the service that you bring to the table. And if you, like most sales professionals, market yourself as a sales professional, and that's how you put yourself out, they're going to avoid you like the proverbial plague when they see you coming. Why? Because they know at the end of the day, there's going to be an ask or an offer that's going to require them to give up money. And they don't want to make a buying decision. But at the end of the day, we need to know what consumers want, because if we're going to be a seasoned sales professional that's successful, then we've got to meet the needs of the consumers that we get in front of. So here's what we need to understand. A significant number of studies tell us today that consumers are fearful, they're worried, and afraid. In fact, a Simply Wise study done in July of 2020 tell us that, as an example, consumers today are more concerned and more fearful about retirement and the ability to see their money last throughout retirement than they were just 12 months ago. There's a significant amount of fear, worry going on in America right now, and this pandemic has simply amplified that. A growing number of Americans every night are lying awake because there are things that they're worried about, things that they're afraid of that are keeping them awake at night. They don't have an answer. They don't have a solution. And as a result of that, they're tossing and turning, trying to figure out what in the world they're going to do. And at the end of the day, consumers want one thing. They want someone who can uniquely speak to the problems that they're dealing with and provide a viable solution that makes sense for them. And they want to solve their problems. Remember this, one problem at a time. Now, at the end of the day, what are they looking for? Number one, they're not looking for a sales professional. They're not looking for a product or service. What we do know, and a number of studies bear this out, they are looking for an authority figure, an expert, someone who can uniquely help them solve their number one problem. And after they solve that number one problem, they can then help them solve their next problem and then their next problem. So the goal for a consumer is they want to solve one problem at a time. And if you want to have an opportunity to be more successful in your practice, your goal number one is to find the most pressing issue that is keeping your clients and prospective clients awake at night. And then step two, focus your attention on that one problem and solve that problem. Now, when you solve the problem, it leads the consumer to ask the question, what's next that you can solve? But many times, sales professionals approach the conversation the wrong way. A client comes to you and they say, I'm interested in creating income for retirement. And having further dialogue, they say, I would love to have tax-free income because I don't want Uncle Sam to be the primary recipient of my money that I've saved to spend in retirement. They're in great health. They've got significant assets. So they're a candidate for an indexed universal life insurance policy. And rather than having an opportunity to speak to how this unique life insurance product can solve their problem, What do as a sales professional? You go to your IMO and you ask for 50 different variations to address all the what ifs the client may or may not ever ask you when the client already told you what their primary objective was. They want tax-free income. And they want as much tax-free income as the premium amount they're comfortable in spending will give them. They didn't ask for a death benefit. They didn't ask for enhanced benefits for chronic or long-term care. They want tax-free income for life. Why not just solve that problem rather than complicating the issue or giving them more variations for questions they may not even ask? Now, here's another common example of a way that we see producers do it wrong. Again, a client comes to you and says, I'm interested in guaranteed income for life. I want to make sure that if I live to be 150, I'm going to have a guaranteed paycheck every month for as long as I live. Well, what are they a candidate for? A fixed indexed annuity. And rather than sitting down and spending time to show them how the solution that you've created uniquely solves their problem and gives them the maximum amount of income that they can have for a specified period of time, what do? You present 10 different illustrations from 10 different carriers, each offering multiple variations of guaranteed income and this bonus benefit and this bonus benefit or this unique feature and that unique feature. And what have you done? You've muddied the situation when all they wanted was a guaranteed income solution. What we typically see is the fact that when most producers sell, they're selling to a bias. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, each and every one of us has a bias. We want to be sold a certain way, and guess what? We believe that every client that we call on wants to buy the same way that we do. Well, guess what? Your clients aren't you, and the vast majority of them don't want to buy what you want to buy. They're not interested in buying the way you want to buy. They're not interested in making decisions the way you make decisions because they make decisions uniquely differently. They want to know that you can solve their problem and solve it the way that they want it solved. So if you did a good job in your first appointment, you identified the number one problem they want solved. If you asked good questions and you did the appropriate follow-up, they told you what it is that's keeping them up at night. When you know that, nothing else matters. Solve that one problem first, and then you can solve the other problems they're dealing with later. Now, here's another bias that we often see, and that's the proverbial upsell that always comes. A client says they want guaranteed income, and now you want to throw in all these added benefits of an income doubler or an increasing income opportunity versus a level income opportunity, and all of these variations that you want to bring to the client. Again, that muddies the water and makes it more difficult for them to make a buying decision in your favor. Think about this. Only 1 in 5 consumers, if given the choice, are going to buy an upsell, i.e. enhanced benefits. And they're only going to buy those if it's a compelling offer to begin with. So 4 out of 5 don't care about the other stuff that you're going to present. They just want you to solve their problem. And here's the second thing we know. If the upsell that you're offering is not directly correlated to solving their number one problem, you just complicated the buying decision, making it more difficult for your client to process the information and say yes or no. And when you give them too much information, you limit their ability to make a buying decision. And the vast majority of the time, they're going to say no because they can't make up their mind. To avoid that, avoid the upsell. Solve their number one problem first. And more importantly, don't complicate the sale by bringing things to the table that don't match and meet solving their number one problem. Now, it's also important to remember that people see in pictures. The vast majority of sales professionals sell off of an illustration, and they lay out multiple illustrations with all of these facts and all of these numbers that they want people to present. Well, here's something we know. The initial buying decision is made in the subconscious brain. And in that subconscious primal part of the brain, it doesn't read, it doesn't write, and it doesn't speak. That subconscious brain where the seat of emotions live is nonverbal. It only sees in pictures. That's where the initial buying decision is made. So the important thing that you need to do as you're working with consumers is to paint a word picture around the solution that you're going to present. You want this word picture to take away the fear that they're experiencing, the thing that keeps them awake at night, and replace it with peace of mind, confidence that things are going to be better. What you want to give them is a future and a hope to pursue. They want to see the future of working with you being better than it is today, not having you in their corner. They want to know that working with you is going to give them a hope that things are going to be better. And don't forget, people make emotional buying decisions. That's the way we're hardwired as humans. So you have to engage their emotions first, and then, and only then, do you support that emotional buying decision with facts and figures. That's why story selling and using word pictures to paint this beautiful masterpiece of how your solution solves their problem actually helps them move down a path to make a decision in your favor. Now, it's also important to remember that people buy solutions. At the end of the day, they don't care about your product. They don't care about your service. They don't really care about you, at least initially. But they do care whether or not the solution that you're presenting to them right now makes sense. And that they feel confident that the solution you're presenting is going to solve their problem the way they want it solved. And if they say yes to the story that you tell about how your solution solves their problem, the rest of the sale takes care of itself. Remember this, consumers don't want to be sold. They don't care about your product or your service. All they want is for you to solve the problem that's keeping them awake at night. It's also important to remember that reminding them in the sales process, as you're getting ready to present your solution, this is the problem that you're uniquely solving. Go back to that one thing that keeps them awake at night and let them know up front, this is what I'm solving for you today. Then weave a story about how your solution solves their problem. Maybe it's a story of how you've used this similar solution to help a client just like them solve a very similar problem. Or maybe this is your first time selling it, but maybe it's a story of how other financial professionals just like you have used this solution to solve a similar problem for their clients. You can position the story either way, and either one of those is going to transmit credibility, and it's going to transmit a confidence that you know what you're doing. But again, remember, if they're okay with the solution that you present, and they say yes, that your solution solves their problem, guess what? They already brought the product or the service that you're going to bring to fulfill the solution itself. If they say yes to the solution, they already said yes to the product or the service that you're going to present. Now, remember this. It's not how many problems you can solve at one time. In fact, that only muddies the water. In the minds of your client, based upon study after study of consumer buying behaviors, this is what's important. It's not how many problems you can solve at one time. It's how well you can solve the number one problem they're dealing with right now. Remember, you can always solve their other problems later, but your attention has to be on how well you solve the number one problem that's keeping them awake at night. Now, to find the problem, number one, you've got to ask good questions. Number two, you've got to listen intently to the answers. If you ask a good question and then stop talking, shut up and listen, the client will tell you what the problem is they want solved. They will tell you multiple problems they won't solve. And then if you ask good follow-up questions, you can prioritize those problems so that they can be solved one problem at a time. Now, this is why having a fact finder is so important. In fact, we've developed a fact finder here at Vision Advisors that gives you some good questions to ask on the front end to start the conversation so that you can listen intently to the answers. And then based upon how they answer the question, use appropriate follow-up questions to dig a little deeper and fine tune so that you know that you know that you know what the problem is that they want solved. And then you can uniquely get ready to solve it. But the most important question you can ask them during that fact-finding first interview process is this. Ask them specifically, what keeps you awake at night? What is the number one problem you would like me to solve right now? What's the number one thing you desire most right now? And once they answer that question, solve that problem and solve it first. Solve it the best way you can, because when you do that, the client is going to look at you and say, thank you for solving my problem. What's next? The professionals that operate their practice that way write more business, see more annual growth, and become more referable and actually get more referrals from their clients than anybody else in the industry. So why would you not want to run your practice that way? Hey, at Vision Advisors, we're problem solvers. That's what we do. We're here to serve as consultants to help you as you are coaching, consulting, and guiding your clients in a problem-solving process that at the end of the day gives them a future and a hope. If you don't have our fact finder, you need it, and you need to learn how to use it and use it well. We're happy to share that with you as a contracted producer with Vision and walk you through a process of how you can use this to begin to engage in a more consultative approach to selling. So as you're working with your clients and identifying those problems, we're here to help you solve them. 1-800-505-8489 is our number. Again, 1-800-505-8489. Be sure and visit our website, visionadvisorsinc.com. And if you're not following us on social media, let me encourage you to do so, because we're sharing on a regular basis conversation starters that can help you identify problems that clients are having and be aware of the different and unique ways that they can be solved. Hey, it's John Terry with Vision Advisors, and on behalf of all of us here at Vision, thank you for joining us and have a great day.